Hey folks, welcome back to another Pokemon Master video, and as some comments asked in recent videos, that I'd probably do another one of these, sync grid priority lists, right? And just in terms of where to use our orbs, we are getting a decent amount of orbs recently, right? And we also got some new units, so I do think it's a good time to do this again, right? So, some things that I do want to mention beforehand, I personally do think. I don't think strikers are that important anymore, right? In comparison to tanks and healers, I do think tanks and healers are by far more important to grid first between, before any of your strikers, right? Basically you don't need to grid any strikers, and your strikers could be sufficient enough to beat the villa. However, tanks and healers, a lot of them provide more value than strikers when you're trying to go through the villa. So that's why I will value tanks and healers more importantly here. So, anyways, let's get into this. So, in the top tier, the ASAP tier, S for ASAP. I don't know, I forgot the name. It's just like this just how the tier list is constructed, just with alphabets. But anyways, yeah, the most important ones. The first one I'm gonna mention is, and this is in no particular order, but first one is Pikachu. That I want to talk about. Pikachu, like everyone knows by this point, Pikachu is insanely good, right? Dude has Potion MP Refresh 3, and then both Master Healer, and obviously with Pikachu you could get 3 out of 5 relatively easily, right? It's not really locked behind anything except for like daily ticks. As long as you're playing every day, you do your daily missions, you got Pikachu, right? Don't have to worry about that. And then some other stuff that Pikachu also does really well is you could have Thundershock Hostile Environment to paralyze your opponents, or a decent chance to paralyze your opponents. And you also got stuff like Thundershock Move Gauge Refresh, which is 1 gauge refresh, spammable move that you could spam during your Villa run. So Pikachu is definitely one of the best ones, right? Again, just potions plus Master Healer, 60% heal on your potions. That has a 40% chance of refreshing every time you use it. That's really, really strong. Moving on to another unit folks should focus on as soon as possible would be Mew. Mew is a fantastic free-to-play tank, right? For those who do have a Mew, right? Unfortunately, Mew, you can't really obtain him at the moment if you guys don't have Mew. It was a event, I think, 2 months ago. But yeah, for those who do have Mew, definitely grid Mew up. Mew got stuff like First Aid, you got Shifty Striker, Agile Entry, all that stuff, right? Really, really good grid. Overall, you got a lot of great stuff in here. Natural Remedy is fine as well. World Dreams MP Refresh, Swift MGR, a lot of great stuff with Mew, right? And mostly you're trying to pick up First Aid because like Mew itself is just um, insanely tanky, right? So, moving on. Another unit you should probably work on is Swanna, right? Swanna at the moment is not as good of a healer as Pikachu is, because Swanna at 2 out of 5, which is what we have right now, we only have the 1 potion NPR, but when you get 3 out of 5, you get like 2 potion NPR, which becomes an insane healer. But even at 2 out of 5, you still at least get potion MP refresh 2, and then both master healers, right? That's 1 less than Pikachu, but that's still good. And also with Swanna, I do think Swanna is a overall better unit to use over Pikachu, just because Swanna has much better defensive stats. Swanna can actually tank, Pikachu can't. And then Swanna has Take Flight, which is a really good support move, increases your whole team's speed by 2, and then also increases your whole team's defenses by 2 as well. So that's really nice. Also got Embending, where defense can be lowered. So Swanna is definitely a priority as well. Moving on to something else that you should probably also grid out as soon as possible if you do have, is Alakazam. Alakazam is just insanely good as a support. It's just like unbelievable. Like Alakazam has like literally everything. You get like +6 special attack. You get like speed on when you use like reflect. Where is it over here? Pep Rally sharply raises speed when you use reflect. You get like reflect MP refreshes, reflect move gauge refreshes if you want that as well. You got stuff like Dire Hit Critical Squad makes your Dire Hit All into Dire Hit Plus All, and then you got MP Refresh on Sixth Sense, which is basically a potion MP Refresh 3, but like better, because you also give your teammates +3 special attack as well as as well as accuracy as well, right? Like Alakazam is incredible. Also, obviously, Dire Hit, all MP refresh, all that stuff. Side beam, move gauge refresh, a good sort of spam, right? All that stuff, recuperation if you want. So yeah, Alexam also really good. There's two more that I do want to talk about in the most important tier. One being Rotom. Rotom is like a summable version of like a Mew tank. Obviously, they're very different, but it's also, I would say, on par with Mew in terms of how well it tanks, right? It has Ridicure, occasionally restores HP when an opponent targeting the user misses. You definitely want to pick that up. And Rotom has a passive that every time it hits, it increases your evasiveness by 1, right? So you really up to a point, you'll just starting like to dodge moves like crazy, and then you'll have a decent chance of healing every time you do that. And also, Breathtaking MP refresh. Breathtaking is obviously very good. It's probably one of the strongest support moves in the game. Decreases sync move countdown, gives you crit, gives you accuracy, all that stuff. And then you got like stuff like Thundershock, also environment, Thundershock move gauge regen, 2x special attack MP refreshes, right? So good stuff as well. And then the last one I'd put it up here is probably Superior, although I would put Superior like a bit lower than most of these. But like Superior, you don't really need too much orb investment. Like Superior, all you need to go in here is just to like pick up the time to energize MP refresh. You got 2 of those, and then the 2 X special attack all MP refreshes. There's obviously a lot of other stuff that's pretty interesting as well. Energy ball on a roll, and all that stuff. But at the moment, like Superior is also a really great option. Probably one of the best move gauge management that you could possibly have, right? So these are probably the ones I would recommend the most in terms of working in sync grid, right? So moving on to the next sort of tier of units to work on sync grids. One of those I would put Garchomp, right? Garchomp is just so insanely powerful. Does one of the strongest AoE hits in the game, right? I think it literally is the strongest AoE hits in the game with like Surging Sand 3, all that stuff. Like Garchomp is just a hard hitter, and it's pretty self-explanatory. Like hits super hard, and is fantastic, and doesn't die as easily, right, as a striker. So there's that. Moving on, another unit that I probably would put in here is Steven Metagross. Steven Metagross hits insanely hard as well, and Steven Metagross, especially in Villa, is super good because you got stuff like Recuperation, got stuff like Haymaker, you got Aggravation on Iron Head, flinching is really nice, move gauge refresh on Iron Head, all that stuff. And again, Steven just hits really hard. Stuff like Bullet Punch, Eagle Eye, really great unit to grid as well. Moving on, another one is Gliscod. Same reason, super hard hitter, and also with Steven, both Steven and Gliscod are really good defensively. Gliscod, you get +6 defenses, right? You get Vigilance, you get First Aid, and then No Quarter. Where's No Quarter makes all your pin missiles hit 5 times all the time. Does massive damage with pin missile, right? One of the hardest hitters in the game as well. So Gliscod's another one. Moving on, Torkoal. Torkoal is really good. Torkoal hits really hard for some reason. Well, not for some reason, for a lot of reasons, because you have like you have 2 Burn Synergy 5s on Torkoal, right? 2 Burn Synergy 5s, and then you got like Critical Strike 5, and then you also are super tanky as well physically, and also have Will-O-Wisp, which is really great, right? Torkoal is one of the better physical tanks in the game, and also does really good damage itself as well. So moving on, Haxorus. Haxorus is really good in Villa, right? One of the reasons why Haxorus is so good is because Haxorus actually has Carry On, right? Haxorus with Carry On, you get like +1 every time a enemy dies or it could be an ally as well, but you don't want your allies to die generally. But you get a free attack boost without even spending any MP, so that's what makes Haxorus so insanely good. And now if you use the Striker Cannon on Haxorus, you get Outrage, Confusion Boot, extra 50% damage on your Outrage, which already hits like a truck. And then if you have Lesser Confusion on Haxorus, you put those together, you don't get confused, right? So Haxorus, insanely good as well. Moving on, another one I'd put here is probably Milotic. Just because Milotic is a really good tank. Got a bunch of heals, can tank relatively well. And Milotic, you can also like make Milotic into a really strong water type striker. With sufficient buffs in the right circumstances, Milotic could be one of the hardest hitting water strikers in the whole game, even though it's a tech unit. But it can do that as well. But also tank really hard. You got Cerner Stuff too, which reduces physical damage. Right, you got Revenge Boost, which gives you gauges when you get hit. Got stuff like First Aid, Healthy Healing, all that stuff, right? Catalytic Cure on Mirror Code, although you probably won't use that much. But yeah, Milotic's a great option here as well. Moving on to next here, Steelix would be in here. The reason why I put Steelix down here is Steelix's grid isn't like that great. Like Steelix is more on you know, Steelix as it is, right? Without the grid stuff, Steelix is still, you know, really good. With the grid, you do get better, but it's not like the biggest deal in the world. With the grid, you could get stuff like Impatient, Recuperation, which is nice, Soothing Sand. The grid just makes Steelix, I guess, more specialized as a tank in comparison to like a more just generalized tank, right? Although again, it does have some general uses like Impatient, right? But in some specific situations, Steelix would be very good, especially in a team where you have a really good Garchomp and Palestine, right? Pick up Recuperation, Soothing Sand, Sand Shelter, insanely strong. Moving on, another one, Charizard. Charizard is really good, but Charizard's grid isn't really a priority because Charizard's sync grid isn't that great. It's good. You got like stuff like Speeding Sun, which is nice. Solar Flare is not bad. And then Rejuvenate is nice, but like everything else is kind of whatever. Charizard does not need a grid to be insanely strong, right? So, moving on, what else we got? Oh, Reuniclus. Reuniclus is really good tank. Reuniclus has, even though it's a striker, and Reuniclus could also be a decent psychic type striker, but you know, most folks are using Reuniclus mainly as tank. Got a lot of like healing stuff, right? Got Natural Remedy, Healthy Healing, all that stuff, Catalytic Cure. You got Hidden Power Propulsion, move gauge boost, all that stuff. It's a really great support. Even though it's a striker. Moving on, let's see what else we got. Oh, Heliolisk. Yeah, Heliolisk is an interesting one. It really depends on the team. If you don't have like, anything like great to pair up Helios with, it's not, you know, insane. But if you do have something really good to pair up Helios with, something like a Rotom, like a Mew, or Grimsley, Helios is really good. You get 2 move gauge refreshes on a 1 gauge move with Heliolisk, right? With a Mud Slap, and then obviously Mud Slap lowers opponent's accuracy, which is nice. You got Electro Web, which lowers opponent's speed, and then you know, Electro Web at MGR and all that stuff. Electro Web Satisfy Snarl, which also decreases your opponent's special attack when you use Electro Web, and stuff like Parabolic Charge Master Healer, which actually heals like a decent amount for Heliolisk as well. So Helios I'd also put there. Glade's another one. Glade actually has some really good stuff in its grid, right? Glade's grid is pretty good. Well, pretty good is the understatement, but Glade's grid is really good. Got Ramming Speed, Critical Strike, 2 Critical Strikes, right? Got stuff like Stats Core on Close Combat if you really want to do Close Combat. You got Grand Entry / Fierce Entry. Just really great stuff on Glade's grid as well. Moving on, I think, oh yeah, we can move on to the next here. So over here, there's a few new units I want to talk about. Palestine's a good one. Palestine, mostly, especially if you're using it with Garchomp, right? It's going to be really good. You're mainly going to be using Palestine for its Sandstorm stuff, right? Just the Sandstorm MP refresh on Sandstorm. Where is it? Oh, there we go. Sandstorm MP refresh. And then Focus Group is nice. Good chance of raising crit on Sandstorm. And then Flag Bearer, which guaranteed raises attack +1 in Sandstorm, which is really nice. Again, Sand Shelter, Soothing Sand. You don't want to get hurt while you're in sand, because that's kind of weird because you're like the sand user and then like you hurt yourself in sand. So you probably want those as well. Let's see what else. Kingdra is nice, especially if you have Dauntless. If you have Dauntless, I'd probably put Kingdra even higher. But if you don't have Dauntless, you could still use Kingdra, right? Kingdra is really good. Kingdra hits extremely hard, but in comparison to like Haxorus, it's just not as sustainable in Villa in comparison to Haxorus. But Kingdra is still really good, right? Moving on, Infernape. I'll probably actually Infernape. I'll probably put it a bit lower. Here's the thing about Infernape. Infernape is good. It has a good grid. But like Infernape just gets outclassed by like a lot of units. Stuff like Charizard, Torkoal just outclass Infernape, unfortunately. But if you don't have them, right, then well, everyone has Torkoal. But if you don't, you know, if you miss out on the event, you don't have a gridded Torkoal or 2 out of 5 Torkoal, you could put Infernape on a higher priority, right? But otherwise, I put it down here. Lucaru's a good unit, but Lucaru's grid isn't the greatest. Lucario has some really important stuff on its grid, though. You do actually have, where is it? Close combat stats quo, which could make it so that your defenses don't get decreased. Or well, they get decreased, but then they go all the way back, which is really, really good for Lucario, especially for its survivability. Got some other great stuff on here as well, like Fierce Entry. But overall, like, the grid itself isn't extremely amazing. It's just that the unit's really good on its own, right? So there's that. Moving on. We also got, one thing I forgot to mention on the other tiers is Houndoom. Houndoom is insanely powerful. Houndoom hits like a truck after gridded. It has like some of the strongest passive buffs in the game. I think Houndoom might be like a second or third like strongest special attacker in the game in terms of like damage. Foul Fighting 5, Dirty Fighting 5, Dark Pulse overpowered. Houndoom's a monster, right? Moving on, let's talk about Vileplume. Vileplume, Meowstic, and Masquerain. I'll put in this same tier, and they have like similar capabilities. These two Paralyze. This one has Confusion. This one has Confusion as well. This traps, and they all tank relatively well, right? Meowstic has more speed. These guys have more, bulkiness. Meowstic heals. Masquerain heals. They just do a lot of stuff. Masquerain decreased special attack. Masquerain and is a really, really great partner for Houndoom because of that, right? So all three of these are probably in the same tier here as well. Grimsley, it depends, honestly. Grimsley, like, I could put it in D, but if you have Unbending Grimsley is actually a really, really good tank as well. If you have Unbending on Grimsley, I'd probably put it higher, but otherwise I'll put it in D just because it's a bit too much. It's not not insanely reliable. But again, if you do have Unbending, it's really, really good as a tank as well. Salazar, I'll put it in C here, right? Salazar is just a really, really strong tech unit that also does decent amounts of damage, right? You could flinch and poison your opponent's Pokemon with a 1 gauge spam bowl move with move gauge refresh, right? And then Price, I'd probably put it in E tier. We'll just keep it here because there's really no point in Price. Price doesn't do anything. It's Ice type. Ice type's just a bad typing, unfortunately, at the moment. And then Raichu, I'd put, Raichu, I'd probably just keep it here as well. I was thinking of like adding another tier for Raichu, but I guess Raichu's not the worst. But yeah. Okay, Raichu might be the worst, but Raichu just doesn't have anything in its grid at the moment, unfortunately. But yeah, anyways, that's the way with this one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Like if you enjoyed this video, subscribe to my channel for some more Pokemon Masters content. And I'll see you guys in the next one.